Senate should be abolished. Changed my mind.
Why do you think it should be abolished, though?
Because it's inefficient and stupid.
He has a reason. Do you want, tell him the reason? It's a good
Look,
reason.
okay, first off, you know that all the Labor parties in all the states before Federation and decades after Federation as well were trying to abolish senates.
Yeah, they tried to do that.
All the legislative councils in all the different states. And
In fact, they were very close to doing it, but the High Court overruled. Anyways, yeah, but you're right. There've been a lot of
They
efforts
used to construct suicide squads. They get people elected to legislative councils in states, and then when those suicide squads went in there, they just went, chairs are pretty comfy, yeah. And then they wouldn't abolish themselves.
But Jordan, you're thinking of like a Labour government being in control and being a majority in the parliament, so they're able to enact good legislation which will benefit Australia. Here's a flip version of it. There's a Liberal government which is going crazy, and it's like been taken a hostage.
What he wants to do is he wants to abolish the Senate so that the Libs can go crazy here, so that they fuck shit up so badly.
Now we're talking. That's a little
I knew you'd be on
That's a
board
little
with this.
commie.
Ali is on this train.
No, I'm not on
Abolish
this
the
train.
Senate.
Damn
I am
commies!
I am
Surrounded by
pro.
commies.
No, I am not on that train.
You are on that
too, I
train.
bet.
You are on it. They've done it in Queensland. Why is Labor in power most of the time in a state that is thoroughly Liberal? It's the most Liberal state there is, and yet at a state level, it's a Labor government despite all the papers being against the Labor Party.
I think it's also
And it
there's
takes a lot for them to vote in the LNP, and then when the LNP's in, it's in for one term, not three.
Okay, I am not like you understand Australian policy a lot more than me. However, I think that there's a lot of people in this country that are not comfortable with having a Labor government at the federal level, but are comfortable in having Labor government at a state level.
I don't think that's
These
true.
are the same people that, I think that a lot of people in Queensland vote for Liberal for federal and vote Labor for state. And this is usually after Liberals
Yes, but you know
having
why?
some time in government and fucking shit over. Here's another one. Eventually, Queensland's going to switch over and go to Liberal because
Yes,
it's
but
just
it'll
a
only
fucking-
be in for a term.
Yeah.
Because,
Really?
okay, look, they had the gerrymandering in the Joh Bjelke-Petersen era. But that was extremely corrupt and was basically the closest thing that Australia's ever had to a dictatorship. And as soon as they were able to smash that, you know, just pretty much just a red wash every election. And yes, Campbell Newman absolutely obliterated the Labor Party in one election. What happened to the election afterwards? Voted out. Back to where it should be. I am quite confident that a state Labor government will get a third term in Queensland.
Really?
Despite the fact that in the last election, Murdoch bought every paper in Queensland.
Wow, that's
Propaganda only works to a certain point.
What? That completely defies everything that you've done for the last 8 years.
No, I always said that. I said that as soon as it gets to a point where there's like a depression or a world war, this is when the Labor Party usually wins office. It's these extreme moments in history. And it was the same throughout the Hawke-Keating years, because they had to completely retool the economy because inflation was just through the roof.
Jesus.
But at a certain point, business just goes, okay, we've eaten enough cake. We're getting sick.
Oh.
And I think that's what needs to happen for Labor to win. And that's why they win in Queensland all the time. And that's why I want you guys, especially throughout the next election until there is an election, can you shut the fuck up about Adani? For Christ's sakes.
Because Labor...
Give them a break.
Right.
What, Adani needs a break.
No. Because Labor
Yeah.
passed.
Oh, the late,
A,
yeah.
let Adani pass. What weird views I have. Abolish the Senate, build Adani tomorrow.
Are you saying I've got to stop
Osama bin
right?
Laden should build Adani. Bring him back from the
Bring him
dead.
back from
Are
the
you
dead.
saying I can stop spray
capture-
painting?
Everyone has to convert to Islam.
Are you saying that I can stop spray painting every stop sign with Adani at the bottom of it?
Oh, that's
Yes.
fair. That's why Holsworth
Stop,
is covered in
stop
that.
blaming Anastasia Palaszczuk for it. She reduced it by, made it a sixth of the original size. She didn't end up firing 20,000 firefighters, teachers, and nurses to get the money to build Adani. She was obviously
Pragmatic.
opposed to it in a pragmatic
Dude,
way
fuck
for the last 6
Adani,
years.
man. They're gonna. They're not doing anything that's good for, like, they're screwing up the Great Barrier Reef. They're extracting more coal. Yeah, we're getting a few dollars out of it. And I understand for, like,
No, we're
Queensland
not
politics,
really,
it's,
but-
like, essential for survival.
No,
but I am not a politician in Queensland, and I can speak my mind. Fuck Adani.
Yeah, it's a bad thing, but this is what people don't understand about the tepid politics of Queensland. If Labor comes out and says fuck Adani, they lose every North Queensland seat overnight.
Yeah,
Because
I
they
get
see that as an attack on coal, right?
But-
so if they come out and say that, yeah, and then people are going to say they gave them subsidies after 6 years and minimal subsidies.
I feel like Labor is the pragmatic.
LNP was willing to. The LNP gutted the state. You know what the first term of the Labor Party was? Just undoing all of the damage that the Liberals, the LNP did to the public sector. That was it. Just rebuilding frontline services. They've been decimated because of the LNP.
Are
But
they
that's what
still
I
doing
like
it?
about them not having a Senate is that people are allowed to see the full extended
Yeah.
brunt
I get that.
of the Liberals and Nationals. They're allowed to see what they're actually about.
He has a point.
But isn't Gautam Adani like abandoning his like Australia project?
That's what I think as well. I think that the Adani project, which is what most people don't understand about it, it's just something that he keeps on his balance sheet so he can get funding and leverage for other projects that actually are profitable for him. But he just puts that there so he can say that he has this ghost asset.
Yeah. Look,
The Labor.
Adani, the guy that it's named.
Oh, right.
I guess what we could say, reverse evil Gonski.
look, I understand for like really pragmatic reasons, and also the fact that like Labor's version of the Adani plan is significantly better than Liberals' version of the Adani. Dude, the Liberals basically wanted to spend public money to build the terminal for them. The entire thing. They want to lay out the entire infrastructure for them
Yes.
with a guarantee that they'll buy some coal.
Ali.
Oh my God.
And,
Labor said like you got to
and we're
build it
willing
yourself.
to
That was
pay
good.
for it by firing 20,000 frontline workers throughout Queensland.
That's, I don't
20,000.
Spending public money for extracting our resources is technically true, but the way the Liberal National Party will put it is that, first of all, we don't need that resource. Technically speaking, we don't need enough of it to generate our own electricity because our demand isn't that high, and also we have other avenues now. So it's kind of just like there. Secondly, they would argue that our entire purpose for doing this is to facilitate
Investment, foreign investment.
well, not just foreign investment, but like a company that well, infrastructure they're paying for themselves. They're saying just like a stable demand for our coal. Because if we build this infrastructure for them, that's their argument. I'll tell you what Labor also says. Their argument is if we build this like infrastructure for them, what this allows us is to sell our coal at a good price for a long ass time.
Right. Okay.
Because there's like need in India for it. Labor's argument was, the last I checked, that that's true and we want that. However, this deal
government
is
shouldn't pay for
profitable enough for them to build it themselves. We don't have to facilitate this.
No. It
Because
was
they're
even
not
better than that. It was such a good challenge. This was the tightrope that Labor had to walk until there was a very concerted effort in the Murdoch press to push Anastasia Palaszczuk to the point where they were basically sending messages that if you don't pass Adani, we will run you into the ground into the next state election. And she has both the Murdoch press owning all the papers in her state and Clive Palmer creating all of these Koch brothers-esque
man.
think tanks in Queensland. She has to make some deals, right? But her tightrope that she was walking for years was, if it's profitable enough, let private investment do it. Because if the demand is truly there, that will facilitate it itself. So we don't need to put government dollars into this.
But that's
It's so much more sensitive.
like because there is another scenario which the LNP wouldn't tell is that we spend all of that money on build. But this isn't cheap shit. This is expensive stuff. We build all of that, and eventually we don't even have a stable demand for it. Where like Adani for some reason goes bankrupt. There's a lot of speculation that Adani's their own checks and balances.
Bankrupt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not bankrupt, but like
Thank God.
they're hemorrhaging a lot of money. So technically they might not do it. Let's say some other company in India does it. But is there going to be enough demand? Because these are like decade projects.
It's
We're expecting if
short-term
we do
thinking,
this that we like, dude, like if we do this, like you want to do this, you want to buy our coal for like the next 10 years or something at least. And they might sign a contract for it.
And
but
India's
maybe
moving
there
out of
isn't
coal
there isn't
rapidly.
demand. What if like our oil prices collapse so much that it becomes profitable for India to switch over to oil instead of buying coal from us? These are there.
And the price of coal has been plummeting for a decade.
It has
We
been
should be
plummeting.
like-
And so I think it's extremely wise for any government to say, fine, if you want to do this, if you want to fuck over
it
our natural
yourself.
resources,
Yeah.
you do it yourself. And
How
if
is that
if you don't want to
not-
do it, then it's not like worth it.
It's a reasonable argument. I would argue that it's reasonable for them to build themselves completely. I mean, look, if I want to build a business, I don't get a fucking government handout.
Because you don't know how to apply for it, but you do.
Oh. Okay,
Yeah,
fine, but
yeah,
it's minuscule,
like-
right? It's minuscule, right?
Yeah, it is minuscule.
I mean,
but
look-
I suppose actually in the grand scheme of things, unless it's the LNP, but this is the whole point.
No, but the point is, if you say
Pretty
like,
much Anastasia Palaszczuk, this is the difference. The LNP were saying, we'll build it for you and you can have all the profits. Anastasia Palaszczuk was basically saying, we'll give you as much as we give cunts on Centrelink to start a business.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things. The subsidies that they were giving were minuscule.
So what-
And then the other thing that I just need to point out for the next election for any Queensland listeners there, and I will be making more votes about this, but if you vote out Queensland Labor, you can say goodbye to any reef plan, which is insane. In
Think of the tourism
2022
money.
this day, the LNP do not have a reef plan. No strategy for managing the Great Barrier Reef. You
Yeah.
can say hello to them scrapping all land clearing laws like they did under Campbell Newman, which will increase land clearing to levels that they have in New South Wales. In fact, it exceeded New South Wales, and New South Wales has some of the worst land clearing rates in the world. Queensland had worse land clearing rates. And if you put in those land clearing rates, the thing if you're going to kill the Great Barrier Reef with Adani, you're going to kill it a hell of a lot faster if you have all of that runoff coming from all of this cleared land into the Great Barrier Reef. That kills about 40 to 50% of the coral. On top of that, you can say goodbye to any infrastructure plan that Queensland Labor had in place for 50% renewables by 2030, which, as we all know, as soon as these targets are in place, the Greens always come out and say, oh my God, but it's not 100%, it should be 100%. That's not the point. The point is there to put this target that attracts investment but doesn't scare off coal to run a huge campaign against you so that you get voted out. Because as soon as you have that 50% target, it exceeds it by a mile. This is why Adelaide started out with a 50% target by 2030, and they're already at 100% pretty much. 2021, I'll have to look into
no,
it. but
they
like,
are. They're close to 100.
They're close to 100%.
Renewables.
Yeah.
Renewables. So they were 11 years ahead.
That was their whole problem. That's why like they kept having blackouts, and then Elon Musk had to install a battery
Yeah, yeah.
because they weren't producing it from normal power plants. They were literally
No. Those blackouts were a result of the coal plant. This is the propaganda that was sold around that. It was.
Yeah, you
It had nothing to do with renewables. It was because the coal plants were failing because of heat waves due to climate change, shutting down all of these 60-year-old facilities. So all of that's a lie anyway. But Queensland especially has some of the richest renewable resources on planet Earth, right? It's the sunshine state.
Yeah.
In fact, there was this really good saying from this guy that is the forefather of Germany's renewable policy. So one of the biggest and most ambitious renewable policies on earth. He was complaining to Rudd's chief economist that the worst place to be producing renewable energy in Australia
Is
is
Victoria.
better than the best place to be producing renewable energy in Germany.
Yeah, that
But
makes a lot of sense.
Queensland especially has the best renewable resources in the country.
Dude, all of
so
Australia
obviously, if you
has
have a
lot of
target,
potential.
huh?
Entire
All of Australia
has
absolutely
a lot of bloody potential.
500 times more than what we need. And we could be exporting all of that. We can be bringing back all of these really intensive industries, giving them free energy like steel and aluminium. We're talking about trillions of dollars of investment.